Hi everyone, my name is Medhat and we're going to do a lesson on Spinner. We're going to start by creating a new project. And we're going to call this project Vacation Advisor. Now the task that this app is going to do is you're going to be presented with a bunch of continents, Africa, Asia, Europe, and so on. When you choose a continent, it's going to display for you the countries that exist in that continent. For example, if I choose Africa, it's going to tell me, okay, there's Gambia, there's Ghana, there's Nigeria, and so on in that continent. We're not going to display all the countries there because it is going to take too much time to do that. So I've just chosen about 3 or 4 countries per continent. Let's get going. We're going to choose API 23 as the base API, and I'm going to choose the empty activity. Activity that's going to be created as main activity with the layout name activity main.xml. Let's finish here. From my snippets, I'm going to copy the strings.xml and I'll add it to my strings.xml file. Okay, so this is what that looks like. To make it easier on me today, I will change from constraint layout to linear layout, because linear layout is very easy. You just keep on adding controls, and if you set the orientation to vertical or horizontally, it just places them vertically or horizontally. But because there is a bug in this version of Android Studio, which is 3.1.4, and it doesn't really show us the controls here, I'm going to try and fix that by coming here and adding the word base to the class name, which is this here. Now let's close and go back to the design view, and you see that the design view is working. I'll go and change the default layout to linear layout. So I'm going to just delete this and replace it with linear. So this is what I just did. I just changed that to linear layout. And I go back into the design view. And you will see that when I went back into the design view, because I'm using linear layout, it put it at the top. But you have to be more specific when using linear layout. You have to be specific about whether you want the orientation to be horizontal or vertical. I'm going to change that to vertical. So I'll say orientation and choose vertical. So this is just what I did now. I've got some UI to add here. There are 3 controls that I want to add. I want to add a spinner control, a button, and a text view. The spinner control will contain all the continents. The button will just be an event handler that when you click something happens. And the text view is going to display the countries that belong to that continent that was chosen from the spinner. So to do that, I'm going to delete this Hello World text view and go to my snippets and choose these 3 controls and pop them into my UI. So you can see here we have 3 controls. We have the spinner control, the button control, and the text view control. And for the spinner control, it's going to receive its entries from an array of continents inside of the strings.xml file. The button is going to receive its text from the strings.xml file, and the text view is going to receive its text also from the string.xml file. So now if I go in design view, you can see that it's picking up the text of the button and the text of text view. Let me run this at this stage and see what I have. Okay, so here we go. We have, this is the spinner, this is the button, and this is the text view. Now, let's add some smarts to this app. Let's add some smarts whereby I click on the button, it reads the continent, and it goes off and gives me the countries that belong to that continent. So I'm going to create another class here in Java. In this particular package, I can say add new Java class. And this Java class, I'm going to call it the continent expert, because we need some sort of an expert to tell us what countries belong to what continent. So this one I'm going to call the continent expert. And I have the code for this continent expert in my snippets. And this data now is not really coming from a database. It's all hard-coded, just for demonstration purposes. But in reality, you probably need to put this data in a database and pull it from the database. But this is just for demo purposes, and you will see that it's very simple code here. So, we're using a list here that needs to be resolved. And we have an array list as well that needs to be resolved. So if you look at this class, I'm declaring a list or an array list here. And in the case of Africa, I'm going to add Gambia, Ghana, Ethiopia, and Sudan to that list. If it's North America, Mexico, Canada, and the USA. So it's just dynamically creating the stuff. So if you request Africa, it's going to give you a bunch of African countries, Asia, and so on and so forth. And then it's going to return this list. So I have my class, I have my expert here who knows all about the continents and the countries. The next thing I want to do is create an event handler for my button. So to create an event handler for my button, I need to go to my button here and say, on click, we're going to call a method called on click find country. Okay, and then let me take this one as it is and create a method here. Public void, this is the name of the method, and remember that these event handlers, they have a signature, and the signature always takes as an argument a view object. So we'll give it a view object, v. And let's resolve this. Now I've got the code for that event handler. And here it is. But before I can use this expert, I probably need to declare it here. So I'm going to declare a private instance of this continent expert. Continent expert. Okay. So I have declared here an instance of the continent expert, and this is my event handler over down here. And what does the event handler do? These two lines is where you get a handle to the respective objects from the UI using the find view by ID. Now, I want to know what the user has chosen, because if you go down here, this is a drop-down list, right? And there are continents. So when I choose Europe, for example, and click on Find Countries, I want it to tell me what countries belong to Europe. So, this is the way you can read from the spinner. The spinner is the object continents, and it's got a method called getSelectedItem. That getSelectedItem is an object. You have to convert it into a string using the string.valueOf. You convert it into a string, that way you know what continent was chosen. Then you call the expert. It's got a method called getCountries, pass it the continent, and it's going to return for you a list. Using a string builder, you're going to append the various names of the countries into that string builder, and then you're going to set the text of the text view, this is the text view, it's called country. You'll give it the values of this string builder. So this is all Java, and those who know Java, they know what this all means. Now let's run this. I think we're pretty much done. So now let's choose, for example, Africa. Click on Find Countries, and sure enough, these are the countries that belong to Africa. So this is a good example of how to use the spinner control.